What's up, everyone? This is Neon Dream Games, and I am going to talk about scope and what that means in game development. So, what is scope? What does it mean? Well, scope is basically how big is your game? How long is it going to take to develop? That sort of thing. Scope is something that I struggle with. When I was starting to learn how to make indie games, I was doing tutorials. And following a tutorial doesn't really give you an idea of scope because you're just following along with whatever the person is teaching you and however long that tutorial is. But when you have to figure out your own game, you got to figure out scope because you should be planning and you should be having an idea of what you want to accomplish. Now, for me personally, I want to do this for a living, but if I've learned anything from the many videos I've watched from other YouTubers who are indie game developers, you need to figure out scope. And this industry right now is difficult. As you know, there are many layoffs happening within the game industry with big companies. And so, what I'm hearing a lot is that making micro games or smaller scoped games is a better idea or a way for you to bring in income as a full-time indie developer. So, for me and my journey, I'm going to try to make smaller scoped games, and I want to make games that I can hopefully from beginning to completion, from starting it to launching it on Steam or whatever I'm going to do. I'd like to do that in a trimester. So essentially I would ideally like to release 3 smaller scoped games in a year. And that's my personal goal. And sometimes it's hard to figure out what fits into that. There are a few factors that you have to think about. So let's begin with just how big is your game? You need to decide that. For me, I just said I want to design a game that I can complete in a trimester. Now, you have to decide what is your goals in this indie game development journey. Are you looking to make your dream game and you really don't care how long it takes? If that's the case, then I guess by all means, just start making it. And when you finish it someday, you'll finish it. But you really should try to have a goal because I think that helps to push you to have sort of a finish line to aim for, even if it has to be adjusted later. But we don't want to adjust it too much. So you have to figure out ahead of time how to decide how big a game might be or how long it might take you to make it. And I believe a couple of those things to look at is to begin by assessing your own abilities as a game developer. Now, for me, I'm pretty fresh to this. I'm pretty brand new. So when I'm looking at scope, it's a little difficult for me because I don't know how long exactly something might take me. I can only gauge on what I've learned in tutorials, making tutorial games. And I also started that reverse tower defense game and realized how much bigger that game was going to be than I had originally anticipated. Could I finish it in a trimester? Possibly. I don't know how big of a game it would have been, but I really wanted to accomplish something that was within my ability. So I have to kind of give up on some of the ideas that I've had, my dream game ideas, or those kind of games that seem bigger in your head, and really start to think about game mechanics, I think, more than story elements. Because I think to make a smaller game, you need to come up with a good game mechanic and build the game out from that. And scalability is important because if you create a good core game mechanic and you can scale from there, I believe you can essentially stop whenever you want and kind of say, okay, this game is a game, it's complete enough, and you can release it. You could add to it more later if you wanted to with either DLC or free updates, or just release it and start working on another game. Maybe you make a sequel down the road where you can just take your original code and build onto it and make a bigger game the second time around. But I think when you start thinking about story elements and things like that, like if you wanted to make an RPG or, even a Stardew Valley cozy type game, you're getting into those heavier elements that is going to take a while to develop. So assessing your own ability and what you can do is important. Also, how much time can you devote to this game? Are you working another full-time job already? Can you only program for 1 or 2 hours a day? That's going to be part of your scope as well. Now, if you can somehow program and just devote all your time to your game, then that's going to change your scope as well. I'm still having to make income outside of game development, so I can't devote as much time to it as I would like to. I'm making these YouTube videos. That takes time. I'm working on a few other projects. I have another business that I run as well on the side, and currently I'm looking for another job because you got to pay the bills. So I really have to look for a game that I can accomplish, and I do believe the game that I've chosen, the Plants vs. Zombies style lane defense game, is going to be within the scope that I want, and it's scalable, as I mentioned. As long as I can build out the lanes and at least a few of the enemy characters and a few of your own troops and people, if I can get a few of those working, I could release a very simple game within that genre. And if I still have more time, I can add more characters and scale it up. So scalability, I think, is important in assessing your own ability and time. And, we've already talked about kind of picking a time frame that you want to complete this game in. And so when you know that time frame and you assess all of your abilities and the time you have to put towards that game, that should help you figure out the scope of a game you should be aiming for, which also takes me back to you've got to plan ahead of time. Do your game design document, at least spend a little time looking at the aspects of your game and taking a real close look at how much time you think it's going to take to create all those different assets or pieces of the game, which is why a game design document is important. And I don't really believe you're wasting time on a game design document, even if you kind of set it aside for right now, because it helps you get used to planning, and it also is something that you can pick up later and take a look at that game design document. And maybe you want to, for your next project, maybe you want to continue on with that one, or maybe I have the abilities or code I can reuse now to help this idea happen in a smaller time frame. But in the end, you do just need to start making something, and sometimes you're not going to know until you start making it. So you could allow yourself that time as well to start prototyping a game, which is sort of what I did with my reverse tower defense game. And after 35 hours into it, I realized this is going to be a little bigger than I wanted it to be. And hopefully you would know that answer before 35 hours spent into it. But some people do the game jam games and stuff, and that can give you an idea if you want to do a game jam, if you can finish something in a time frame that you've decided upon. But my game, I just didn't feel like was going to fit my scope that I wanted. So that's kind of my views on scope. Hopefully that helped some of you take a look at your own games or your own game ideas and your own time. And hopefully it helps you to be a better developer, to really think ahead about not only planning your game, but how big is this game? How long is it going to take me to make it? And create goals for yourself, realistic goals that you can achieve, because that's really the important thing. You want to be able to achieve your goals, because when you don't achieve your goals, sometimes that can bring you down and feel defeating. So make achievable goals for yourself that you can actually accomplish. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you've got any ideas about scope that I didn't mention here, let me know. I'm here to learn just as much as you guys are. So until next time, start thinking about scope. See ya.
Thanks for checking out Neon Dream Games channel. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell button so you can stay up to date on all the latest videos we have to offer. Don't forget to leave a comment to suggest what kind of videos you'd like to see more of in the future. See you in the next video.